Hello everyone. Hi. Thank you for joining the webinar this afternoon. We'll make a start now. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the senior education consultants here at Crick. Yeah, the session this afternoon, it's going to last for about half an hour, by the way. It is being recorded too, and you will get a recording after, so in a couple of days after the session. Don't worry, you can review this with other colleagues if you've not had chance to attend this afternoon. I know some of you have asked questions, which is great. So thank you for popping the questions over before the session today. I have tried to put those into all of the information that I'll be showing. So hopefully I can answer all of your questions throughout. However, if you do have questions as we go through the different sections of DocsPlus this afternoon, we do have a Q&A section on the screen. I've got my colleague Gemma. She'll be here to answer any questions. So thank you very much, Gemma, for being on hand to answer all the DocsPlus questions that we might get. And yeah, so just to go over again, the session is going to be 30 minutes. So hopefully finish at 4:15. And the session today is really to look at how we can empower our learners within lessons to help with reading and writing. Now, we're going to be looking specifically at English, but just so you're aware, DocsPlus can be used in like any subject. So you can use it in like science to write up experiments, in history and geography. So it doesn't have to just be a tool that can be utilized in an English lesson. You can incorporate it across the whole school. And that takes us actually to one of the first questions I noticed, which I wanted to answer now, was someone had asked about kind of what is DocsPlus, or like who is it designed for? So DocsPlus, of course, it is a great tool for students that have additional needs or special educational needs, and it can be used with them, to enhance their reading and writing throughout the lessons. However, DocsPlus can be used by absolutely everyone. As we go through the session, we've got a great mind mapping tool. We've got an area called like the word bars. These will make more sense as we go through them. So in terms of implementing DocsPlus, yeah, it doesn't have to be just for like a small cohort of individuals. You could very easily implement it across the whole classroom, so everyone can benefit from this, from our more confident readers and writers that kind of just get on with their work almost, but to also those that require lots of additional support. And it might be that at the moment they've got one-to-one TA support. You might have other support in place, so we can use DocsPlus for them as well. And then, of course, I know we'll have lots of people in the session today. Some of you might kind of know what DocsPlus is. Others, you might not have any idea what the software is. It might have just appeared on like an EHCP plan for like a year 7 or a year 8, and you just want to see, what the software is about, how it can support those learners in particular. And then finally, just before we do jump into DocsPlus, I'll be going through the software on the laptop version today. But just so you're all aware, DocsPlus does work on Windows, Mac, iPad, and Chromebook. So we do have a DocsPlus app. A lot of the features I'll be going through today, you can access through the app, but I just wanted to make everyone aware that today will be on the laptop version, just so you know. But yeah, and then any questions, just pop them in the chat and we'd be more than happy to answer them as well. But jumping into DocsPlus to start with, the way that I wanted to show DocsPlus today is to give it a little bit of meaning. So rather than showing each of the features in their own little section, I wanted to almost follow the journey of a learner within the lesson. So show you all how you could use DocsPlus in like just an hour-long lesson, really. So from start to finish, from introducing the topic to finishing that piece of work, how we could use it realistically, and what the work might look like, and how we might use certain features in the busy classroom when we've got lots of students that we're looking to support. So following that journey of the learner, the first thing that we're going to look at is a feature that we have called the PDF reader. Now, when we're in the lessons, and I used to do this when I was a teacher, a lot of the time, if we're presenting a new topic to the class, that might be like now, brand new start of the new term. A lot of the time we might use PowerPoints, so everyone has the same information. We're going to present it, go through it all together, and then the class might make notes in their books as we go through. And that's great, of course. As a teacher, we plan for that resource and we can present it on the interactive whiteboard to everyone. But of course, doing that can also sometimes have its challenges. For example, we might have some learners that struggle with reading and writing, or even struggle to retain information. So as we're trying to go through that PowerPoint altogether, some learners might get a little bit overwhelmed. Other learners might want to go through it at a quicker pace than what we're going through it. And that can have its challenges, in terms of, allowing the students to access, the text, and going through it at a pace that's going to help them, a pace that's suitable for their learning styles and learning needs. So going through that first section to begin with, the PDF reader, what we can do, and using that example of having a PowerPoint. So first lesson back after half term, and we're going to be looking at a text. Now, the example that I'm going to be using today is going to be Of Mice and Men. I remember doing that in school. I really liked the film, really liked the book. I just really enjoyed it. So I thought I'd kind of use that as an example today. So as a teacher, we might have a PowerPoint. Now, what we can do with those PowerPoints is we can save the PowerPoints as a PDF. And then once we've saved those as a PDF, we can actually load them up in DocsPlus and have it on the screen that we can refer back to. And we've got some additional features that I'll look at as well when we do that. Now, so one of the first PowerPoints we might have presented to the whole class is a little bit of background knowledge on the author of Mice and Men. So where did the text come from? Looking at the settings, looking at these childhood, just to give us a bit of background knowledge, really. So as a teacher, we've saved that PowerPoint as a PDF and we've popped it somewhere on the school network, for example, or it could be into a Google Drive folder. Now, as a learner, if we wanted to have that information in DocsPlus, once that resource has been saved by the teacher, and all you have to do is save it, you don't have to do anything else, you just save it as a PDF. What we do in DocsPlus is we would click on the folder icon in the top left of the screen. I've already got mine kind of directed to all the resources that I'll be showing today. And the activity that I'm going to load up first of all is this PowerPoint here that's been saved as a PDF. And this is all about the author of Mice and Men, just taking us through a little bit of information, a bit of background knowledge about the story. Now, I'm just going to jump to page 18 here, which goes through the book. So I'm going to jump through a couple of the slides here. So this is having this PDF up. It can be really beneficial for those learners as you're going through it as a teacher with the whole class. This just means that certain pupils can go through it at their own pace, or if you've moved ahead a couple of slides, it just means that those learners in particular, they can just scroll back in the PDF and they can just review any of the information that you presented, making notes on them rather than getting overwhelmed and thinking that they've missed out and they're going to have to ask the question afterwards for you to review it with them. So going through this, as you can see, we've got the PowerPoint here going through some of the different characters and the background of the characters. But what we also have, another feature of the PDF reader in DocsPlus, I'm going to just pause at this slide here, is what we can do for some of those learners that struggle with reading. What we have in DocsPlus is if you highlight any of the text here, so before technology, I'm just highlight this section here. So once I've highlighted some of the text, if I click on this speaker button at the top here, DocsPlus will read that text back to us.
Before technology created farm machinery, humans had to do a lot of the farm work by hand.
So having that feature for those learners that struggle with reading, they can review that information at their own pace. They don't have to worry about the peers that are working next to them getting overwhelmed, getting quite stressed within the lesson because they can't keep up. Having it as a PDF on the screen, they're still going through it with everyone within the lesson. They're not given anything drastically different, but it just means that we can have it permanently on the screen to scroll through at a pace that we want to go through it at. And then having that feature as well, being able to read that text back to us can just be really beneficial for building up that confidence within the lesson. I know when I did Of Mice and Men, we all had a book next to us, and I know the teacher used to kind of point to everyone in the class, and then you just have to pick up from when the last person finished and just read in front of the whole class. And I was an okay reader, but that was really stressful for me. So having something like this would have been just a little bit easier for me when I was learning of Mice and Men and other texts like Jane Eyre and stuff like that. So this is kind of just a way that we can look at how we can use DocsPlus to help students access text with their peers, and obviously other features that we can access as well within that PDF reader. And of course, once we've gone through this, so this might be a little bit of pre-teaching, so let's just look a little bit of the author and a little bit of the background of the text that we're going to move on. And then once we've gone through this, maybe just for a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, just to introduce the text. At this point, we might want to then actually give the text to the students. So we're going to open up to chapter 1, and we're going to read through a couple of the paragraphs just to start off with, just to get a feel for the start of that text. Now, using that same feature, what we can do is we can load up a PDF of the text. Now, this one here that I'm going to show you all, I just found this one online. A lot of the texts that you might come across, if you just type in, for example, this one here, Of Mice and Men, if you just type in like PDF version, a lot of the time it will just appear in the first page of Google, and you can just download it for free. So I did this, I did it with this one here, probably last week. So I saved it onto my laptop, and now I'm going to click open, just zoom out a little bit, and as you can see there, I've now got the text up within DocsPlus that I can refer back to at any point. So of course I could have the physical book there with me as well, but this might just be a little bit easier for the pupils to follow along too. They can scroll on the mouse, and then going back to that feature that we looked at in the PowerPoint, if we wanted to have any of the text read back to us in the book itself, we can, just like we did before, we can just highlight the section, click on that button at the top, and it will read it back to us. So going back to that point I made earlier about providing the text to, arguably the whole class, but so they can work through it at their own pace, they can develop that confidence, it reduces that, I suppose, the stress within the lesson as well, having to keep up all the time, or even, we might have read, a couple of paragraphs together as a whole class, but of course, if we struggle to retain information, we might have forgot, the very first sentence, and that can be overwhelming in itself as well. So having this on the screen all the time within DocsPlus, it just means that we can review any of that information when we want to, so we can just think about ourselves now and just take ownership over our own work. So starting off with that feature there, the PDF reader allows us to open up any PowerPoints that we're using as teachers, and of course any PDFs that we've got for text. And as I mentioned, a lot of these, whether it's Macbeth, whether Inspector Calls, or any other topics, it doesn't have to be a text or a story. A lot of them you can just find online, which is really useful. You can just download them, and then you can just open them up within DocsPlus, and then use those features that we've just looked at. So really nice feature just to start off with, really just introducing that text to the whole class, using that technology so it's all in one place as well. Now, I did have a question from someone as well. I can't remember who it was, but thank you for asking this. Someone had asked about using DocsPlus in exams. We will go through that at the end, but just so you're aware, this feature here that I've got up at the moment, this PDF reader, this is the feature that we can use in exams. So this PDF reader, we can load up an actual exam that we've requested from the exam board, and then when we open it up, you can lock the software down with like passwords, and we will look at that. But in the PDF itself for the exam, you can, like we did before with the PowerPoint, you can highlight the questions in the exam paper, click on the button at the top, and DocsPlus will read those questions back to us out loud. It's all JCQ compliant as well, and we can use it in any exam, that PDF reader. But for those of you today in the meeting that might be looking at software like DocsPlus to use in exams, just so you're aware, we can use that PDF as a replacement for human readers, which has lots of benefits in itself. We'll look at that nearer the end of the session today, once we've gone through a couple of the other features just shortly. So yeah, it can be used in exams. But just starting off there, just wanted to show how we can just use the PDF reader just within lessons, just to open up like PowerPoints and of course text that we might be focused on at the start of the term or in new lessons when we're presenting information to the whole class. Now, following on from this, so we've done a little bit of background research on the author. We've gone through maybe chapter 1 or a couple of the paragraphs just to start off with. At this point, as a teacher, we might then have a question. So we're going to present a question to the class that we want them to answer. And of course, we can have these up permanently. So the PowerPoint, the PDFs here, and we can use these to help us with that writing to answer those questions. Now, before we move on to that writing, I truly believe that with any piece of work, whether it's writing, about of mice and men, or whether it's writing up a science experiment, I truly believe that any piece of text can start off with an effective plan, just aiding us in where we want to go with our writing. So in terms of that kind of like planning stage, before we jump straight into independently writing about with mice and men and describing the characters and what they've been doing and how they how they interact with each other, it might be worth just taking a step back and just planning out some ideas beforehand. And that's where we're going to move into one of our features, which we call the workspace. Now, within DocsPlus, we've got 2 key features. One of them is called a workspace, which is like a mind mapping tool that we've got. And another activity we've got is called the word bars. And you would find these activities by going into the Smart tab at the top, clicking on New. And as you can see there, we've got the word bars and then we've got the workspaces. Of course, I'm going to start off with a workspace. So before we start that independent work, I'm going to take a step back and just plan some initial ideas for what I might want to write about. And I'm going to start off with a spider diagram. So I'm going to go Smart tab, click New, and then I'll go into the spider diagram here. It'll open up a brand new screen for us, but as you can see at the bottom here, they're not closed down. So anything we've had open previously, we don't lose them. They come up as little light tabs at the bottom of the screen, kind of like when we're on Google and you just have the tabs at the top. That's how it is within DocsPlus. And then starting off, we might just want to write some ideas about George. Okay, so I'm going to type in George in the middle here. Now, in terms of adding some pictures, what you can do is you can drag and drop pictures off Google Images, which is really good. So I've just got Google Images open on my other screen here, and I've got a picture of George from the film. I'm just going to drag that picture, drag it into the box, resize it ever so slightly. And as you can see there, really quickly, we didn't have to save these images beforehand. We can go on Google, drag and drop them into our workspace just to give us a bit more visual support just to help us develop our ideas. I think that's really nice because when you come across a new text, when you're learning about lots of different characters like George and Lenny, you've got Crooks, you've got Curly, Curly's wife, and you've got Candy. It can be quite overwhelming remembering all of those different characters and the faces. So being able to just drag a picture across really quickly can just be really nice for some of our learners, arguably all of the learners that might be using a workspace, because of course this feature here doesn't have to be used solely by learners with additional needs. It could be used by anyone. But at this point here, we might want to start writing just some ideas about George. So it might be small, and quick witted man. I've just got some notes on my other screen here. He cares for Lenny. He has a dream of owning his own farm. And then maybe we just want to put one more idea there. So let's have a look. We've got cares for Lenny. Let's have a think if there's anything else we could put in here. Let's have he's got I suppose he's kind of like he's got caretaker responsibilities, I suppose, so we could add that in there as well. So this workspace here, we can add as much text in these boxes as we want. It could just be individual words. That's absolutely fine. And of course, I don't want these boxes. I just wanted four points just to start me off here, and I'm just going to rearrange them on the screen. So, and that might be, as a learner, that might be all I need just to start off some ideas about George. I just want to capture some key information or some key moments from that text that we've read so far and just put them on the screen just so I can refer back to them. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a little bit of a Blue Peter moment here. So I'm just going to open up this one here. So this is kind of one I did earlier. So as you can see, I've got George again in the middle here. I've got a different picture now. I've got some of the same ideas around the outside. But as you can see on the right hand side of the page here, I've got some other characters that we've looked at, maybe in like chapter 1 or chapter 2. So I've got George, Lenny, I've got Crooks, and I've got Candy, and some information about those characters. So what we've done now, so we've developed our ideas, so we've taken over ownership over our work, developing that independence within the lesson, planning our ideas out ourselves rather than being told what to do. And then what we can do now, of course, is we can leave this on the screen and we can just refer back to it. But what we can do in DocsPlus, just to make this a little bit more, I suppose, useful in a way, is we can turn this into something. So we can turn this into a word bar. And what that means is we can take all of these great ideas, and DocsPlus will automatically put them at the bottom of the screen in its own little grid, in terms of the words and phrases that we've developed in the workspace here. And I'll show you what that actually looks like now. So in the top left of the screen, just where I'm clicking, there's a little icon. It's called the export button, but it's just like a square with an arrow pointing up. Now, when we click on that, there's an option that's called create word bar. So like I said earlier, we planned our ideas out. We've got some fantastic ideas, some phrases we want to use within our writing. We're going to hit create word bar. This screen here will give us a couple of additional options to choose from. For example, if we wanted to split text into individual words, if we've got some like paragraphs in there. However, with this example here that I've got, I'm quite happy with what it looks like in the preview. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click OK. And what that will do, as you can see there, it takes all of our fantastic ideas that we've been developing, maybe over that 10 or 15 minutes of the start of the lesson, once we've read a part of that text. It takes all of our ideas, creates this word bar for us at the bottom of the screen, and now we can start to use them, as you can see, in the document that's just sat at the top of the screen there. So this word bar becomes a little bit of like a pop-up overlay on top of the document. And what we can do is we can right click and it will play the words back to us. George. And then we can also left click and it will insert into the document as well. So we've got that auditory support throughout the whole of DocsPlus, from the PDF reader reading that aloud to us, and also in the word bar here, being able to read any of the phrases or individual words we've got at the bottom of the screen. Now, up until this point here, everything we've done has been created by us from scratch. So as a student, we've created our own workspace. We've then turned that into our own word bar, full of our own great ideas. However, what I just wanted to pause at now is, although we have created these completely from scratch, we do have an area called Learning Grids. So Learning Grids, it comes with DocsPlus. It's a part of the software. It's just a part of that package. And it's over 1,000 pre-made resources relating to different areas of the secondary curriculum. And I know I had a question actually that someone had posted about, do you have like 19th century texts? Are there particular activities that I can provide learners with in the classroom and at home? And this is where Learning Grids is going to come in really handy. So to access Learning Grids, to find those pre-made resources, what we do is we would click on the folder icon in the top left. We then click on Learning Grids, just the third tab along here, and give it a second. Oh, just going to clear this down. We have 1,285 pre-made resources just available at our fingertips. And just going through some of the areas that we've got. So English language, we've got creative writing, we've got writing frames and planners. So that'll be looking at, persuasive writing, writing recounts and stuff like that. English literature. So as you can see there, we've got Shakespeare, we've got Macbeth, we've got Christmas Carol, Great Expectations. We've got Of Mice and Men, which we've been looking at today. So got loads of text that we can dive into. Just going into Macbeth, for example, we've got pre-made word bars about the characters. We've got the themes. We've got pre-made clickable workspaces. Sorry, just breaking down the workspace, the mind mapping tool, just with some pictures already in there, just so it's a little bit easier to access. So we've got lots of resources in English literature. Science as well. So going back to what I mentioned at the very start about how, although we're looking at English today, we can implement DocsPlus throughout the whole school. It doesn't have to just be like an English literature tool that we use. It can be used in every lesson. And I think that's really important as well, because especially in secondary school. Learners will be going into all of these different lessons with lots of different teachers, but they will still be producing pieces of work in science and geography. Whether it's writing up an experiment, like I mentioned earlier. So writing will still follow them throughout all of these different curriculum areas. So having access to DocsPlus that can just be a piece of software they use throughout a whole entire day can just be really beneficial for them, in terms of developing that independence and that confidence within lesson. And I suppose from their perspective as well, knowing that they've got a tool to help them, it's all about their learning and learning at their pace as well, with a range of effective resources. So we've got science, we've got geography as well in there. We've got history, loads in history, and then we do have social sciences as well. So like government and politics, psychology, and sociology. So loads of content in learning grids. I definitely recommend, if DocsPlus is something that you implement within school, you can honestly spend hours just in learning grids alone before you touch on anything else within the software. It's a really good place to start with, especially because all of these resources have been created for us already. So it's also a great way to save a tremendous amount of time, especially as teachers when we're all so busy already. Even just saving 10 minutes a day, adding that up across the year, that's a lot of minutes across the year that we can be saving just through learning grids alone. So I just wanted to make everyone aware, because I know we had a couple of questions about that, that we do have learning grids for like other 19th century texts, other activities within the classroom that we can use as well, and we can send them home if we want to. So we do have that learning grids area available. Now, going back to the word bar that we had here, so far in terms of kind of following that journey of the learner, we started the lesson off with the PowerPoint, introducing the class to the author and a little bit of a background to their childhood and of course the text and when Of Mice and Men was set. We then moved on to the actual text of Mice and Men itself, and the ability to read that information back to us out loud, hopefully developing that confidence within the lesson. We then moved on to the workspace, so just developing a couple of ideas about the characters before we jump into that writing. And then what we've just done there is we've turned it into a word bank so we can directly use it within our writing, within the lesson. So that planning is going to be useful for us. It's not just going to be wasted and kind of put aside on like a scrap piece of paper. So at this point now, we're going to start to look at actually producing that piece of work that teacher set in the lesson. So you've got a question on the interactive whiteboard. Let's answer that question now. And that's where we come onto our document, because we've got a range of different support tools that we can use. So the first one that I'm going to look at, and a lot of these that I'll go through, they're just found in the support section at the top here, where I'm just clicking. And the first feature that I'm going to show you all is a feature called the voice note. Now, the voice note feature is it's kind of like an MP3 recorder, which gives our learners the ability to record up to a minute of audio and to store it in the document as like a referral point. Really beneficial for learners that struggle to retain information, especially coming across a new text like we're looking at the moment with lots of different characters and themes. It can be quite overwhelming to retain that information. So before we even start writing, before we even start to use this word bar at the bottom of the page here, we might just want to record a sentence to begin with, just to ease us into that writing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to record our idea. So I'm going to click on the voice note, click the red button to record. George is a quick-witted man. He protects Lenny and has dreams of owning a farm when he has saved up enough money. We click stop. Click done. As you can see there, once we've recorded that, it's stored on the left-hand side of the screen. We can have up to 6 of these on a page at once, so essentially up to 6 minutes of audio. And by right-clicking, if I do that, here we go. By right-clicking, we can play that recording back, so we can listen to that through our headphones. We can re-record and we can delete it as well. So really useful tool for students to use. That voice note feature as well, there's no reason why we can't use that as teachers. So if we're setting up objectives for the lesson, there's no reason why as a teacher, or if we've got one-to-one support within the lesson, that could be like a question or a prompt just to keep that learner on track throughout the lesson, rather than them having to put their hand up all the time. So you can use that voice note in 2 different ways. from the perspective of the learner recording a sentence that they want to write, or the support staff, we could record our own like lesson objective or a set of instructions that we want that student to follow throughout that lesson. But at this point here, so we've recorded our voice note, and now we're going to go through and actually produce that sentence together. So George was a quick-witted man. Now, before we start this off, because we've got a part of that sentence there, what I'm going to turn on next is staying in the support section here. We've got this tool here called the predictor. Okay, and as you can imagine, it's going to predict text that's most likely to come next within that sentence. So as I start to write that sentence, so George. Oh, there we go. So it's already suggesting George for us. And what's really nice about the predictor is it will pick on words at the bottom of the screen here. So
George.
Oh, it's already predicting was. So George was and then quick-witted man. So we can just click on that and it will insert straight into the document there. At this point, we've started off just our first bit of the sentence. So I'm just going to put a full stop in there.
George was a quick-witted man.
And it will read it back to us, which is great for like proofreading throughout the document as well. So we've got that proofreading element. At this point, so I'm going to carry on that sentence. So I'm going to put in here, he protects. There we go. So we're already getting protects. He
protects.
I'm going to put Lenny there. It's already predicting up. He protects Lenny and has dreams. Oh, actually, we don't need to type that in because we've already got it here. Dreams of owning a farm. And then when he has saved, there we go, already predicting it for us.
Saved.
And then enough. And then money, just to finish that sentence off. And then at this point, we might have developed that confidence now. We don't need to use the predictor anymore. So we're going to close it down, put that full stop in.
He protects Lenny and has dreams of owning a farm when he has saved enough money.
Oh, and it will read it back to us. So again, looking at that proofreading element, we can ensure that, that is the correct sentence that we wanted to produce within this document. Now, at this point, so we started that sentence off, and we've got that confidence to just carry on, and we're going to carry on with that question that we presented as a teacher that we want everyone to work on independently. Now, what I'm going to show everyone next, actually, is once we've produced a piece of work, and of course, this might be at the end of the lesson or partway through the lesson. Of course, as a teacher, we want to make sure that the support that we're offering, it's used effectively, and we know exactly where that piece of work has come from, so we can assess it, and it can, and it can, I suppose, indicate where we need to move that student onto in the following lessons. So what we've got within DocsPlus is at the top of the page here, we've got a feature called Analytics. Now we can access this Analytics feature at any point in the lesson, but when we click on Analytics, what that will do, and of course this will be far more detailed with the more work that we produce in the lesson, but Analytics will break down that document, as you can see here, and tell us exactly where this work has come from. So as you can see, we can see the words that were produced on the keyboard. We can see any of the words that we had to use within that predictor, as you could see as I was working through those sentences. We can also see when that student had to use that speech feedback to listen to those words in the predictor as well. And we can also see when that student has used any of the activities that we've provided or they've created themselves. And this can be really beneficial because if we, especially as teachers, if we create these from scratch, if we give an activity to a learner and they don't use any of it, we might not need to provide them with that support the next lesson. Or on the other side of that, we might notice that the resource that we've provided that learner with, they've used every single part of that activity. So it might be, do we need to change the support that we're offering them now, or do we need to make it a little bit more challenging? So it can be a great way just to peer into that word bar, just to see exactly what they've used within that activity in terms of the word bar that you can see here. Of course, if I had spell checked, the spell check would also appear in here. And if I've copy and pasted from a website, for example, like SparkNotes, it will keep track of any copy and pasted text. And then from this perspective, once we've analysed this document, maybe at the end of the lesson, we've got a really detailed recount of what's gone on during that lesson in terms of the work that's been produced. Because we want a physical copy of this, maybe to file away in a folder or just to print it off so we've got that physical copy, we can click print at the top here. And as you can see, we can print off the document like an A4 Word document. And then by scrolling down, it will print out the analytics and also screenshot the activities that we've used in the lesson as well. So once we've printed it off, we can then make, we can annotate over this with what we might do for the following lesson. stick it in their folder or stick it in their books, and then we can plan that next lesson based on what we can see within this analytics. So yeah, in terms of that journey of the learner, kind of that end goal within the lesson, once they've used the workspace, they've used the PDF reader and the word bars, we can then effectively assess where they're at within the lesson and what we might need to plan for them afterwards as well. And it's a great time-saving element as well for us as teachers, because of course, doing that, within the lesson when we've got, a variety of different, students with different abilities, we might have, some learners in the class with, lots of additional needs. It can be quite time consuming going around all of those students, making sure, they're all on track, when we're just one teacher within that lesson. So just having that analytics, it's just a great tool for us as teachers that we can look back on at the end of the lesson, just to give us a really detailed recount of what's gone on within that document. So that was the analytics, kind of finishing off that process of looking at how we might use DocsPlus in a standard lesson over like a period of an hour. And then just finishing off, I know we've gone over slightly because we've gone through so much today, but just finishing off, of course, what we've looked at in DocsPlus so far is how we can use DocsPlus within like a standard lesson for a variety of different learners with additional needs, or just using it generally across the whole class with everyone, looking at that inclusive classroom toolkit and tool that we can use. But then I know a couple of you had asked about the exam mode. So I won't go into this in a great deal of detail, but in terms of DocsPlus, we can use it as a replacement for human readers and human scribes. Now, it's all password protected. We can lock it down in the options section here. So if I turn my exam mode on and put the password in, something that we'd set up beforehand, once I turn the exam mode on, this is where I can enable and disable the different features of DocsPlus depending on the access arrangements for that student. Now, on our website, we do have a really great table, as you can see here, that just goes through the different features that student's allowed to use. So, for example, if we have a student that requires a human reader, as a replacement in DocsPlus, we can use the doc reader, which we looked at right at the very start. If we have a student that requires a human scribe, what we can use as a replacement in DocsPlus is we can use the spell checker and we can use that predictor tool that we've also looked at. All of this is JCQ compliant, by the way, but just so you're aware, from the scribing perspective, if we do have a student that is using the spell checker and the predictor, they will lose out on the SPAG marks just because that's the tool that they're using. But this information is on our website. But once we've locked it down, so we've enabled or disabled the different features, just going to click OK. It's just going to close everything down on the screen here. There you go. And now we're in the exam mode in the bottom left. And then what we do from this point is we would request the exam paper from the exam board. They typically send it between an hour and 90 minutes before the exam. And a lot of schools I work with will save that exam paper onto either a USB stick that's encrypted or a password protected area of the network. I think it just has to be somewhere just password protected, essentially. What we then do is I've just got a geography one, so unfortunately it's not related to mice and men. But what we do, once we've saved that exam paper, we would find that paper on, for example, the USB stick or the area of the network. We would click open. And as you can see here, we open up the exam paper. We can scroll down to one of the questions. I like showing this one here. And then from a reader's perspective, we would just highlight the sentence that we want to have read back to us, just like we did with the PowerPoint and the text of mice and men. So when we highlight, we click on the icon at the top here.
Describe the distribution of the cities shown in Figure 1.
And we can click on that icon as many times as we want as well. I know a lot of feedback I've got from other schools I support is when they have transitioned from human readers to a computer reader, they see a massive impact in pupil confidence, rather than if a student previously had a human reader, they might ask that question maybe once or twice, but the third time there's a little bit of they hesitate a little bit because it's, oh, I should know what this question is meant to say now. Whereas when you move towards a computer reader like DocsPlus, they know that it's a computer, but they can click on that as many times as we want. So from a reader, that's the tool that we've got there. We can just highlight it and click on that button at the top there for it to read back that question out. And then from a scribing perspective, just to finish off, in the top right of the screen where we've got it's like a piece of paper with a dotted fold in the middle. This is called the toggle split view. We can split the page in half. That will bring the exam paper at the bottom, and then based on that grid, if we are using DocsPlus as a scribe, what we can do is we can access the predictor tool, as you can see there. So we can use the predictor, and of course we can spell check throughout the document as well. Both of those features and that reader facility at the bottom of the screen, all three of those features are JCQ compliant, and we can use them in any exam as well. So just wanted to finish off with that, just to show kind of looking at that journey of the learner that we've been focused on, how we can use it, at the start of the lesson, start of the term, introducing the text to the learners, using it to plan our ideas out with the workspace, turning that into a word bar, using that word bar alongside the predictor to produce our work within the lesson, and then looking at the exam side of things, because we might have some of the students that use DocsPlus for exams, how that might look in the exam, at the end of that year when they come to the external exams that they'll be coming across, like geography, English language, English literature. So that was quite an in-depth run through of DocsPlus, and I hope you've all found it useful. One thing I'll say is, of course, we've done like a big overview of the software today. Once the webinar finishes, just in a couple of minutes, you will be directed to a survey which will ask if you want to book in a one-to-one consultation. That's a great way to speak with myself or one of my colleagues specifically about the priorities in your school at the moment, just to go through kind of what your focus is at the moment, looking at the exam side of things in a bit more detail as well. So definitely, if you want to look at DocsPlus in more detail, if you just click there, I think you just type in that you want to book in a demo. One of us will be in touch in the next couple of days to hopefully get you booked in so you can look at DocsPlus. In terms of the licenses as well, we do offer a variety of different packages. We start with 2 licenses, we then go to 5, we then have 10, and then we do have a whole site license package which allows you to install DocsPlus on every laptop, iPad, Chromebook, in school, and it also provides unlimited home access for every teacher, student and parent to use at home as well. So it's great for like parent involvement, but it's also great for like homework potential as well. So yeah, loads of different packages available, and I'd highly recommend booking in that meeting with one of my team, just so we can run through how DocsPlus might be used more specifically with your school and your priorities. But I hope everyone's found that useful going through DocsPlus. Hopefully I've been able to answer the questions that you sent across before the meeting, so thank you very much. And hope you found it useful, and hopefully we'll see you in a demonstration in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get the recording from this session in the next couple of days as well. But thank you very much everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thank you.